welcome to Level 3. I'm Jack Daniel, and this is From Mad Libs to Python Expert Level 3. Today we're going to get into databases, and this is going to be fairly simple and straightforward, actually, as complex as all this stuff in front of us looks. So this one is going to be set up a little different. What I did was I put the changes at the top, and then down at the bottom, we made it. So we're going to kind of go back and forth and look through this from top to bottom, back and forth. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll get through it. It should be pretty fast. And by the time we're done, you're going to be able to make a really neat short database. And then in the next level, I'm going to show you how to output that into a separate file, still Python, all Python, so that you can save your inputted information and call it back anytime you want, even after you've shut your Anaconda down or however you run Python, your Python environment down, and come back. So let's get into it without further ado. So we have our basic Madlib here, but it's got a few simple changes. Okay, so this is what the Madlib looks like. If you are familiar with level 1, then you're familiar with most everything that's happening here, except there's a little bit of stuff happening. So let's go through and see what we changed. So there is a list called, an empty list called all Madlibs is initialized to store all the dictionaries, which are the answers that are created every time we answer the Madlibs, or what it calls during the program's execution. So if this were, say, like a medical database, every time it started, it would put a unique number to the entries, and then it would take someone's user information and store it, So that's what we're learning. So what we did is right here, what that super complex statement was, we wrote all Madlibs equals square brackets. That's an empty dictionary, essentially. And then right here is we're naming the Madlib counter and then telling it equals 0 right now. In other words, there's no IDs, unique IDs in it. It's brand new and it starts with 0. So then we're going to get a little more complex with the way this works, and I think you're going to like this, because after this one you're going to be able to use functions, and that's really neat. So you're really going to be taking yourself up a notch here, especially if all you knew was at the beginning of our journey was just what like tuples were and instances and stuff. You're really going to be a lot happier with where you can go from here. So the Madlib counter is there, a global variable called Madlib counter is created and initialized to 0, and we talked about this. So we create a Madlib entry function. The input gathering and dictionary creation logic are moved into the create Madlib entry function. So let's talk about that. So let's skip down under here. So from here to here, that's our original inputs. Here's our input dictionary. And we don't have a list in here because we don't need the list. It's redundant. So I thought maybe it would still have it in there. I don't know why. It's been a week since I made this, so forgive me. So anyway, and then here's the Madlib, right? Here's the Madlib and the Madlib print statement, and that's all our original Madlib thing. Okay, so what's happened here is we want to create a function, and the way we do that is by defining it. So we type in def, we define the function name, and we called it create Madlib entry, and we put some tuples there, and then a slice or a semicolon. So what happens is in the code, like if I just do this and I hit enter, you'll see that it automatically indents for me like this. Okay, so what that's doing is it's going inside the function and allowing me to put programming in there. So what we did was inside the function create a Madlib entry, we added our inputs and our input dictionary and the Madlib and everything we had originally. Okay, and then we've added a few more things in here. So they're all going to be on this indent line so that they run inside the function. Okay, and then if you notice, it comes back out here to this for loop, which we'll talk about in a minute. But until then, it's gonna, when the program starts, it basically goes, it starts at the top and it runs through the lines and it says all Madlibs, okay, and the counter equals 0. Sure, great, whatever that means, it doesn't know. And then it creates this entry and it runs through all this stuff, picture information from you. And then it comes out to the for loop and it repeats, is what the for loop does. Okay, so anyway, anything that happens back here in the where it's tabbed back out again is happening in a new function or a new process, and that means that this function has ended. So let's go up and see what we've added into there besides what was already in there. So we created this madlib entry function, and we hopefully understand what's happening there. So inside this function is global madlib counter, allows the function to modify the global madlib counter. So let's look at that right here. Global. That means worldwide through the whole system. Madlib counter accesses the counter. Then it tells the madlib counter to designate itself plus or equal to 1 above whatever number is in there already. Then it asks for all your inputs and the input dictionary. So let's go back up and look and see what else has happened. Right, we talked about this. It generates a unique ID by adding the number 1. So it goes from 0 to 1, and the first one is 1, and then the next one is 2, and so on. The input dictionary now includes the ID number column. Oh yeah, let's look at that. So in our input dictionary, we added this row right here. ID is equal to Madlib counter, and that's the unique ID for it. Madlib counter, right? This guy. So what's happening is it says I'm at 0. I'm going to add 1. And then down here in the dictionary, it fills this in number 1. And then it puts all your answers in here. And the next time someone fills it out, it automatically puts the number 2 in here and then takes their answers, or 3 and takes their answers, or 785,000 and takes their answers. And that's how this works. Very simple. Now you can make it randomly generate a number also. And if you do a long enough string of numbers, it'll almost always not duplicate. But that's another thing for another time. Let's keep it simple. So the input dictionary now includes the ID, Madlib counter key value pair, which that's going to allow us to use that number to call the information back later. Now all madlibs.append input dictionary adds the dictionary to the all madlibs list. So let's look at that. That's this line right here, right below our dictionary. It says we're going to append the input dictionary into the list of all Madlibs. And all Madlibs is our users list. So it could be called users list instead of all Madlibs. But in this case, we're just collecting Madlibs and not usernames, right? So I'm just trying to help you get a different view of what it could be. So a print statement gives feedback to the user. So it takes all your information, populates it into here, prints the Madlib, and then it says Madlib counter, whatever the number is, Madlib entry 0, 1, 27, whatever, created. And then that's that. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to this whole thing. So hopefully it wasn't too complex for you. And feel free to rewind and hit it again. It's okay. You'll figure it out. It's not super crazy. You just have to give your mind a chance to wrap around it. So the next thing we did after we print this statement is we come out of our function loop. So that's all done, right? And it comes back out and it runs the Madlib creation multiple times. Now, this isn't necessary from a database standpoint. Like, you just need to have this function under a button. So when someone says fill out form, click, it pops open the form for them to fill out. But in our case, we're going to make a for loop, and this is going to make our Madlib run 3 times. And we're doing that for a few reasons. For one, it teaches us how to make a for loop, which is important to learn in Python programming, because it says for X amount of times in the range, in this case 3, create this entry, and every time it ends, do it again, okay, until you've satisfied the number. So that's all that does. Let's look at how that works. A for loop always says for. And then for here, it says underscore, which means like for blank, and then a space, and then n space range, and then the tuples, the range is 3. You can change it to however many numbers you want. If you want to make a really nice one right now, go ahead and put in a bunch of answers and maybe repeat some answers sometimes, and you'll get to see how data sets overlap, and you'll start to see how a data frame helps you understand information, which we'll do in a second. So that's pretty much all it does. It just says for in that range, and then pretend like this isn't here, right? Let's just pretend like that's not here. If I hit enter, it's going to drop me down in that tabbed area, right? Which means that whatever's underneath right here, this entry is running in the for loop, and then anything inside that indent would run too before it comes out to the next task. So let me go ahead and just fix this up where we had it. And now that you understand that, that's all the for loop does. And it's going to come back out here, and it's just going to make this data frame. And then once it makes that data frame, which is it's making a data frame, not for us, but in the background, we're naming the data frame df all madlibs, which I hope you understand from level 2, equals, and we're calling pandas dot data frame, and the data frame is called all madlibs, right? So all madlibs is, where's all madlibs? This guy, the counter. So it takes all the dictionary answers in the counter and it prints them. And then here, because we don't use brackets and we don't do it like this, let me write it next to it. So because we don't write it like this, right, we're going to get a fancy data frame. If we wrote it like that, we get a data frame that prints out like this. But we want it to look nice, so we don't write it like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. I think we've pretty much explained how it works. Let me just finish my thing, I guess. Okay, so there's a loop for multiple entries. Create a Madlib entry multiple times, in this case 3. You can change the range, create more or fewer entries, or you can remove this and make the program call the function as needed. But for example, we'll run it 3 times to fill it out. Then it creates pd.dataframe all Madlibs from the information that it's gathering in here from the 3 instances we filled out the forms. Then Pandas automatically uses, oops, sorry, I should look like my Panda automatically uses the dictionary keys to create columns and rows, and it will make just a perfect, beautiful data frame out of this information. And we'll just go ahead and do that now, okay? So we just have to fill this out. This will be fun. You go ahead and work. Hopefully you're working along with me. Dun, dun, dun. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. All right. I also updated the descriptions so that they worked a little better in here. That's the beauty of development. You see, you go back and you say, oh, let's make this work a little better so my questions look better to get better answers. So as we go along in here and we fill this out, we want to kind of make 1 or 2 answers the same in each. We don't have to do in every single one, but just maybe in 1 and 2 have the same answer once, and maybe in 2 and 3 have the same answer once, just so you can see overlap a little bit, and that'll start to give you an idea how data frames work to give you an understanding. If you look below right here on mine, you can see where eggs comes up twice here, and then obviously milk is here twice, and frozen and cold. So you start to get sunny and hot. You start to get these words that start to have similar meanings, and you can glean data. You can glean understanding from the data, right? So plural noun related to food. Go with sauces again. I like sauces. One of my favorite words to use in soup thing. I don't know why. Don't ask me. Um, okay, almost there. Almost there. Boom, 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 boom. So hopefully this is an enjoyable tutorial for you. Sorry, this part's taking so long. I should have maybe copied and pasted all this. My bad. But I know you're probably doing it too, so that's kind of fun to just do it along with you. I feel like it's more interactive that way. So we're gonna choose a food noun, and we're gonna go with taco. And then a plural food noun, we'll go with burritos. And another food noun, we'll go with salmon. All right, here it is. So now here's all three of our Mad Libs with printouts. So you can see how sometimes there's similarities. And you can say, oh, I think I kind of seen the same thing here. Let's make a data frame to see what we're getting. Here's our data frame. As you can see in our event, we get Las Vegas and Las Vegas twice. Over here, we get cheese twice, sauces twice. So you start to see these overlaps and you say, okay, I can see some stuff. Now, if we want to make an ugly data frame, simply all we have to do is just write uh, the print function around there. If you select something like this and then make tuples, usually it'll cover it like that. And then at the beginning, print, and there's the ugly version of the data frame. Why you would want it that way, I don't know. Maybe it's just simple. You're not trying to be fancy. Maybe it's easier to see that way. It kind of is a little easier to tell that there's duplicates and stuff. But anyway, so that's the differences there. And we'll go back and make it a regular fancy one again, so you can see. And that's it. And then you can drop rows and stuff. There's a lots of pandas. We'll get into that some other time in a different tutorial. This one's really about databases and how inform population and how you can go from something as simple as a Mad Lib to something as complex as like a medical database. So film Mad Lib from data frame function takes the data frame and the desired row index as input. Then index validation checks if the provided index is valid within the data frame's bounds. The row extraction, row equals df.loc. Also, an interesting one to learn would be iloc. And then the index number retrieves the row at the specified index as a Pandas series. It's interesting that it does it that way. You wouldn't really expect that's what's going to happen. You'd think, how does it do that? But it does. And the variable assignment extracts the values from the row and assigns them to the variables A1 through A6. Then we generate the Madlib, and in this case, it generates 3 Madlibs over the course of the thing, and it prints the filled Madlibs to the console with all the answer questionnaires and also the data frames and everything. But it's important to note this code assumes that the df all Madlibs data frame exists and contains the necessary columns. If you're running this in a Jupyter notebook, make sure to execute the previous code cell that creates the data frame first, or include this in the original code. So this is a little something different here we're going to do. So this is a whole separate thing. So we've got this data frame and we've made it out of the Madlib, right? And we're printing it from index. And it's pulling our locations and our answers. And if index is greater than 0 or less than 0, or index is greater than the length of the data frame, print invalid index. And let's see what happens when we run this. Wow, nothing. What the frick? Okay, let's run it. I didn't think it moved. I didn't think it went. Usually it puts a little asterisk up here. My computer's kind of fast, so sometimes I don't see the asterisk. Okay. So now, when I go down here, I can pull just the row. Here's just that row. Bam. I can pull just index 2. Bam. And if there's too many rows, like if I put this at index, say, because we only have 0, 1, and 2, because there's 3 answers. So if I put this at 4, it should throw an error, invalid index. But if I want to see the other index that's left in there, just index 1, I can just put index 1 in there. Now I've got all of them, 0, 1, and 2. So that pretty much concludes everything that you need to know as far as inserting the information into the database and pulling it back out. So we insert it in this way and pull it back out this way. And if it doesn't make sense, just rewind and we'll run through it again. Okay? But it's pretty straightforward. assuming that all the data has been inputted. Okay, which is why in the next one, in the next tutorial, we'll save all of this information down into a Python file, just another Python file. So we'll have this notebook and another Python file that saves all the data in it, and it'll just look in that file for the data and pull it back out. That way, if we want to come in a month later and essentially run what's in this code, or run something to pull the information, we can, even years in the future, because we have the saved database. And the thing is it might seem like databases are complex, but they really aren't. They're just sets of keys or whatever it is. And we're going to prove that in the next video. And when you understand the simplicity of it and how simple everything could hypothetically be, then when you get into the business of making more complex and secure systems, hopefully you'll still have a mindset of light and clean simplicity. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey, and I look forward to seeing you in level 4. Also, make sure to check out some of our other tutorials. I've got these cool Seaborn ones and stuff. I don't know if they're all out yet. Probably not at the point that you watch this video. Maybe so. But if you want to learn how to make fancy charts and graphs and pie charts and all the stuff and things, scatter plots, we're going to get into all that as well. Look at this thing. This is from one piece of information. It's insane. So we'll definitely do that too. But let's go back and look at level 4 as soon as possible. I'll see you there. 4 and 5, and maybe we'll put a level 6 to it. I don't know. It could go crazy. This could be from Mad Libs to the moon and back. I don't know. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.